Well, this is Pastor Frank Lewis, and welcome to a new show, an episode of The Key. Now, last week, I shared with you about observations that I've made as a pastor. I remember I think I told you I've been a Christian for over 40 plus years. I've been a pastor for 12, and I work now almost exclusively with leaders. And it has given me a broad spectrum of knowledge about the Christian life. And I don't know about you, but I found that living the Christian life, I would read my Bible and Jesus would say if you love me, you keep my commandments. And I found it very difficult to keep his commandments. I don't know whether that's a problem with you or not, but it certainly was a problem with me. Difficulty keeping the commandments, difficulty living the Christian life. Now I know, and you probably do too, or maybe you don't, that Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy, so he is an adversary. When we're born into a battle, and that battle is with the devil. I want to tell you that, in fact, the devil wins in too many cases, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing this program, is because I want you to know the truth. Because what did Jesus say? The truth, you know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. Satan's winning too many battles with children. And if you're a parent watching this, I want you to know that you need to get emotionally healed so you can raise emotionally secure children, okay? Most children are insecure emotionally, and it's a very difficult situation for children because Satan comes and causes you as a parent to do things that you just may not even know why you're doing them, but you're bringing pain to your children. And you don't want to do it, I'm certain you don't want to do it intentionally, but you don't know what you're doing. And that's okay. It's not okay after you know the truth, though. And I'm going to share with you the truth. These observations are going to help you to realize, I have that problem. I do that. When I look at myself, this is what I find. And so what I'm going to share with you will really be helpful to you, but I want you to realize that if you're a parent, please get this book. Get this book because you can heal emotionally and your children will benefit dramatically from your healing emotionally. You can get it on Amazon. And you can see that the scroll at the bottom. I'll also tell you that my website is full of information. The website is called joystones.org. That is the name of the church that I pastored for 12 years. And they're just amazing. I have 42 videos on there, all kinds of different information. Information for parents, information for marrieds, information, okay? And great content because it is anointed. Because I used to be on the radio and I was on internet TV for a while. And I also gave a sermon and a message every Sunday. So I have lots of material. And so you should come to that website. And if you want some help and you want me to contact you, as time permits, hit the Want Help button and you will get an email back from me and you will get some help. Because what I'm looking for is people that want to get well. People that will admit, I'm emotionally wounded and I want to get well. Well, back to where I was, Satan is very good at what he does. And what he does to infants, toddlers, and small children. But guess what? He can also do it in utero. When an embryo is growing, if the parents don't want that child, or if the was a surprise, and they're just not ready for it, and or they're fighting, or they're emotionally upset. If the mother's emotionally upset, that child's going to experience that. And it's going to feel to the child like rejection. It's going to feel to the child like it's going to cause chemicals to be secreted from the mother into the embryo and the growing child in the pregnancy. So Satan causes the problems in utero, with a growing fetus, and he causes problems for babies, infants, toddlers, and small children. Now, why does he pick on that group more than any other group? Well, here's what my research showed me. And I've been researching and studying brain science and how God designed our brains, why we do what we do, and how to do things differently for over 20 years. It wasn't, as I said before, it wasn't because I wanted to do it for you. I'll be very honest, I wanted to do it for me. I was a mess. I was a mess because of, you heard in the last two shows, that I was a mess because my father was very abusive. I mean, very, very abusive. So what happened is I ended up needing to do this research. And in this research, I discovered a couple of things. Number one, a baby, infant, toddler, and small child has to rely on mom and dad in order to survive. It seems pretty obvious, but guess what? If mom and dad are bringing pain in any form, abuse of any kind, abuse of physical abuse, emotional abuse, God forbid, sexual abuse, any kind of neglect or any kind of not being emotionally unavailable to the child, then that child is going to believe things about themselves that aren't true. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to everybody. Satan is very good at what he does. But God has answers. And that's why we're doing this show, is because God has answers. But first, I want you to relate to what it is that I have observed, because I want you to say, I need help, okay? I need help. And remember, we went through, and I shared with you, one of the biggest things that I believe that Satan's after is if he can get a child to not trust mom or dad, particularly dad, then what happens is that child can't trust their parents, so who do they trust? They trust themselves. Now, if I trust myself, I'm not God. I can't handle all the things that are happening in the world today. It's very difficult. And if you're finding yourself afraid with fear and angst and anxiousness, and you are just absolutely not sure of what you need to do, then what's going to happen is you are going to end up with a situation where you are going to have to rely on yourself, and relying on yourself isn't going to work. I tried that for years. Jesus said in the Word, you can't do anything without me. I'm the vine, you're the branches, you can't do anything without me. He said, if you lose your life, you'll find it. Well, what does that mean? It means that I have to be able to not be in control of my life. And almost all the leaders I meet, and the people I meet, but particularly leaders, because I work with them, I find that they need to be in control. They are controlling. They're running their own life. You are probably running your own life. And that's something that's not going to give you the abundant life, because you don't know how to live life. You don't know how to be able to navigate through all the things that are happening in the world today, or in your finances, or with your children, or with your wife, or with your body, your weight, you're afraid. So that's why Satan attacks small children. So here's what I want to do now, is I want to go through the observations what I've observed. Because if you're a parent, you've got to get healed in order to have children that don't end up believing they're not valuable, not important, and not worthy. You're going to cause them without even wanting to do that. Every parent really does love their children unless they've been abused. If you've been wounded, you're going to wound your children. If you've been abused, you're going to abuse your children. That's part of what behavioral scientists tell us happens. That's why most men and women in prison today, particularly men, they have been abused, and so they abused. And they abused in different ways. And so the problem is we need to get emotional healing. But I want to first now go back to the observations that I've made over the years of long years of being a Christian pastor and now working with leaders. And I started last week telling you about the first 5. I'm going to now talk to you about the next 5. And one of the things I'm going to tell you is unresolved emotional pain, or being wounded, or having the scars of childhood from your parents, having painful emotional wounds from your parents or from situations and circumstances that Satan set up, and then he reinforces it over and over again, is going to cause you to be controlled by unresolved emotional pain. You're going to avoid certain people in your family. You're going to avoid certain situations because it brings pain. And when it does that, it's because you are still believing things about yourself that aren't true. People talk a lot about identity. I talked about it last week, just briefly. Identity comes from having the truth about and knowledge about who we are. And we are created in the image of God. And he said it was good when he created us. So we are God's children if we've accepted Jesus Christ as Lord. And as I said to you, you want to accept Jesus Christ as Lord because otherwise you're trying to live your own life and you can't do it. You can't do it. It's not going to work. So give it up and accept him as Lord. He's for you. I'm going to show you in the weeks to come, and you're going to believe me after I share with you the solution. God has the solution. But right now, we're going to talk about the next 5, and the first one is you're controlled by your unresolved emotional pain. When you trigger, you're out of control. When you trigger or somebody triggers you, like if your wife triggers you, then you're going to be walking on eggshells with your wife, okay? If your husband triggers you and you're a wife and he gets upset easily, you're going to be walking on eggshells. You're not going to be the person that God created you to be, walking on eggshells. That's not the way God wants marriage to be. If you have problems with your children, you may blow up at them. You may shut down when they do certain things. That's because you're being controlled by unresolved emotional pain. And that's not something you want to go through the rest of your life with, because it will keep you from having the abundant life. Unresolved emotional pain will keep you from having the abundant life. We are going to talk in weeks ahead, and it's also in the book. You can get the book and get a preview of it. Get it on Amazon. But that book, my book, is going to help you to understand how God has set up solutions, and they work according to how God designed our brain. The next one is that I observed was that if you're in unresolved emotional pain, you're most likely using painkillers. Painkillers are anything that kills the pain. Now that can be sex, drugs, alcohol, any type of, some people work too hard, work too long. My father was a doctor, as I told you before, and he actually threw himself into his work. Some men that I've talked to and wives of those men, they go into the garage and they tinker and they do different stuff to escape what? The pain they're feeling. It's unresolved. It's down deep. They've pushed it down. They don't want to let anybody in, so they keep pushing it down. The problem is, as you get older, it starts coming up, whether you like it or not. So people, even young people that have been really abused, they'll be into heavy drugs. That's like heroin. I dealt with some heroin people, people that came to our church that were have heroin. Really hard. Cocaine, meth, you name it, bungee jumping, extreme sports, chocolate, just to name a few. Now, don't get on me because I mentioned chocolate. Food can be a painkiller, and when people are overweight, I know that they're in pain. Nobody wants to be overweight. Nobody wants to be, obese. If you're obese, I feel for you. I really do. I'm not judging you. I just feel for you because what's happened is you're in pain. I have met women I have met a number of women and worked with them when they came to the church that were raped, and so they became obese because they didn't want to have men attracted to them. They were afraid of men. Well, that has to be resolved before they're going to lose the weight. If you're living in fear, that has to be resolved before you can have a peaceful, joyful, satisfying life, which is the abundant life. The next one is I found in the church, in my church, we kind of headed this off, but in most churches, you'll find that there's people in those churches that we would say they are Pharisaical. They act like Pharisees. What does that mean? They tell you what to do that they can't do. That's kind of what Jesus said when he spoke to the Pharisees. You put heavy weights on the people and you can't even do what you're supposed to do. So people that have unresolved emotional pain, they have wounds from childhood, grow up to be people that tell other people what to do. Why? If I'm telling you what to do, I'm not having to look at myself. So I want to be in control of you and tell you what to do. Husbands do this, wives do this, parents do this with children. They don't give their children choices. If you don't give your children choices, how are they going to make choices when they get older? It doesn't make any sense, but that's what we do because it's below conscious thought. Unresolved emotional pain will not only cause us to use painkillers, it'll cause us to try to fix other people. Because if we can fix other people and project on them what's inside of us that we're in pain about, then we're not going to have, we think, the same problems. The only problem is this: nobody wants to be controlled. If you're controlling your wife, or your wife's controlling you, or you're controlling your kids after they get to a certain age, nobody wants to be controlled. God doesn't control us. He gives us free will. Isn't that why Jesus went to the cross? He went to the cross to give us free will, a choice, right? We can choose him and have the abundant life. Now, we have to learn a lot of things in between, but the reality is we can have that abundant life. We can have a great life. But the key, the thing that we really, I keep using that word, the key, really there's the key and then there's the key, but here's the thing. We need to get the pain resolved because if we don't, we're likely to be controlling other people. And God doesn't control us. The devil shouldn't, because we should tell him to get under our feet and never control us. But if we don't believe we're valuable, important, and worthy, we're going to live in a way that the devil is going to continue to control us. He's going to bring situations and circumstances where we trigger. Most of divorce, when I was about 20 years ago, I said to God, God, I want to be a catalyst for bringing divorce statistics down in the body of Christ. And you know how you do that? You do that by helping married people to know your wife is never your problem, your husband is never your problem, period. Never the problem. What they believe is a problem. How they react to what things that you might do that are remotely similar to what they experienced in childhood is a problem. But we can deal with all that. The problem is Satan is attacking marriages now like he's maybe never attacked marriages before, attacking children. Look what's happening to the young teenagers and 20-somethings about their identity. Changing. You can be a woman if you're a man, if you're a boy, you can be a girl. If you're a boy, you can be a boy if you're a girl. Well, this is nuts, but it's Satan. It's all Satan, and he's preying on people that have unresolved emotional problems and children that have, particularly that have been abused. You know, maybe if I'm a woman, maybe if I'm a girl and not a boy, I won't be so abused. And it's just very, very, very difficult at this time. So we've got to be people that look at ourselves. That's what Jesus said. Look at the log that's in your eye before you want to look at the plank. Look at the plank that's in your eye before you look at the speck in your brother's eye. That's really important. And finally, we have when I deal with leaders, I deal with two things about leaders and most people. Most leaders have gifts. That's why they're leaders. They have gifts. Now, we all have gifts, but some people use them more than others. And these gifts are in 2 Corinthians, and they are talked about. Well, if I can heal the sick, if I can prophesy, and if I have words of knowledge and words of wisdom, and I share those with people, well, then I have a gift. I may be able to sing like a bird. I may be able to play guitar. I may be able to preach really, really well, okay? But what happens is I have found, and my wife and I found, that most people that have great gifts do not have great character. They don't have the gifts of the Spirit. They have the gifts of the Spirit. They don't have the fruits of the Spirit. They don't have self-control. They're easily triggered. They tell other people what to do when they're in their giftings. And the problem with that is that doesn't bring a abundant life, because their giftings, when they get out of the pulpit, when they're not prophesying, they have the same problems that you and I have. And I found that with leaders. They don't have godly character built in because they have unresolved emotional pain, they have woundedness from childhood, and it's coming through when they're not in their giftings and callings. I promoted a lady in my church, could sing, play 13 musical instruments, most controlling woman as it turned out. My wife said, don't do it. I did. I regretted it for a long time afterwards. It was not a good thing. The other thing that I find when I deal with leaders and when I deal with anybody is that most Christians, leaders or not, are not emotionally mature. They have never actually done, because of the woundedness in childhood, they've never actually gotten their needs met in their childhood. There's certain needs, developmental psychologists tell us that certain things have to be accomplished. And certain things have to be sown into a child in order for that child to be emotionally mature. And so the reality to it is that if you're not emotionally mature, and most Christians aren't, most people in the world aren't, why? Because we're all wounded. Now, some of us have gotten healed enough, so we're not as wounded. And what happens is we're more emotionally mature. You cannot be wounded and be emotionally mature. And what happens is that in so many cases, people act like they are leaders, or they can take care of things. They can take care of everybody else but themselves. that's emotional immaturity. If I people pleaser, that's emotional immaturity. If I walk on eggshells, that's emotional immaturity. If I don't follow through, if I don't have integrity, that's coming from emotional immaturity, which is coming. And I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that's what ends up happening. We end up not being able to do Paul said it this way, I don't do the things that I want to do. Oh, wretched person that I am. Why? Because he believed things that weren't true about himself. Of course, he had to go through the ups and downs, and he eventually wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. So I just want you to know, these are the observations that I've made. You may find yourself in these observations. I hope you do, because if you do, I want you to know that there is hope. Ophelia told you, Jessica told you, I've told you, and I want you to know that we are going to go into more understanding about trusting God in the next week and the week to come. And so I want you to know that you can have the abundant life if you will please understand that there is solutions. And once again, I refer you to the book, because the book has the solutions in it. So I want you to know that I love you, I care about you. That's why I'm doing this. You know, I don't know you, but I really do know you, because I know most people. And I want you to know that my goal and objective is to help you have an abundant life. My goal and objective is to have you know about the solutions that are going to literally change your life by healing the woundedness, by dealing with unresolved emotional pain, and you're going to have a better relationships with all of the people in your life. You're going to be able to live the abundant life, and you are going to be able to share with others how you got healed, and that is going to change other people's lives, and that's a very good thing. So come back next week, the week after, and we will look forward